read through, but today we're going to do a Spider-Man episode. I think next time I might do another Superman one because I have a lot of those. I also wanted to start a series where I read the Lore Olympus graphic novels because I have a bunch of those too. So if there's any interest in that, feel free to leave me a comment. And I can go through some of my really old comics. Well, they're old to me, but they're like newer. Collecting the Grim Fairy Tale graphic novels as well as the Fables storyline. So I could go through some of those and pull some of those out. It's been a few years since I even looked at my comic box that has those in there, so there might be some other cool stuff in there. I don't know. But I do have some Spider-Man, I have some Superman, and there's some other Marvel ones that I have too, so I'm just going to slowly go through what I have and then maybe pick up some more as we go. So first up in this comic, we already looked at the front cover, so we're going to look at the back real quick. Here's the ad that we have on the back. This says, it's an ad for Turbo Graphics 16. It says the high energy video game system. I don't know what a Turbo Graphics 16 or Turbo 16 graphics is, but I mean, it seems cool. It seems maybe, oh, let's see here. It says TurboGrafx 16. Okay, so it is TurboGrafx 16. It's the video game system that's built around a 16-bit graphics processor compared to the 8-bit systems you're used to. Okay, so this is more technical than I would have assumed. Just more bits, which is cool. It says it's 4 times faster and with better graphics, almost 10 times as many colors, head-splitting stereo sound, and deeper, more challenging gameplay. In short, the bad guys are bigger, the good guys are smarter, and the action is faster and the challenge is greater. TurboGrafx 16 gives you dozens of great game titles to choose from, as well as optional accessories that let you expand your system. For example, there's a CD player that plays video games in addition to audio discs, a turbo booster audio video enhancer, even a turbo tap connector that lets up to 5 friends play all at the same time. So that's pretty cool, but I've never heard of it, so I'm assuming that it didn't last very long. I'm wondering if maybe it had like a high price point or something, but like here's that blurb. It's just really long and wordy. Let's open up the first page here. I feel like maybe I did read this one already, maybe I didn't. But this ad looks very familiar to me with the little handheld systems. It's showing Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles on this first page, as well as like Top Gun, Double Trouble, let's see, what else? Some kind of basketball game. I swear my dentist office growing up had a bunch of these sitting out in like a little basket that we would play with. So these look super familiar. But it says the next time you're bored, twiddle your thumbs, pop your knuckles and fire your fingers because Konami's coming at you with 6 awesome new handheld video games based off your favorite arcade and home video hits. These boredom busters are packed with action, and they're so portable you can slam dunk a basketball in the car, take Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles out to lunch, or launch a heat-seeking missile from your grandma's condo. So that's pretty cool. That's what those are. On the next page here, we have, it says, Stan Lee presents The Amazing Spider-Man, Shaw's Gambit. On a moonlit mesa in the Nevada desert, the Incredible Hulk makes himself comfortable. Okay, so this is the Hulk. I don't know why he's gray in this comic. Maybe somebody can tell me that. But he's gray. And he's whacking the ground right here. This is Korak. The next page, he's thinking. These are thinking bubbles, not talking. That's better. Now I can relax, take a load off my mind, and try to forget about. And then he says banner. I feel like maybe I did read this one. This seems a little familiar. Little Wimp controls our body during the day. Nights, the only time I take over, the only time I'm me, the only time I can really be alone. We've got him on the screen, Mr. Shaw, dead ahead. Imagine Sir Grey Gargoyle's been warning everyone to stay stay away from the Yucca Flats because that's where the Hulk beat the tar out of him, but it told us exactly where to find the Hulk. Approach carefully, Truman. This is actually a pretty cool panel right here. You can see the Hulk when he said he can actually be alone, so that's really cool. I do like the art on this panel. The next page here we have some bad guy sitting in a chair, and he says, "Our quarry is dangerous as well as valuable. When I recently was approached by a group of powerful men, told that they would destroy the bane of my existence, the Hellfire's Club inner circle. If I could eliminate Spider-Man for them, I was intrigued, but it soon became apparent that there was more to offer than common gain," he says. One of their group is Magneto, the man who is disposed me as the Black King of Hellfire Club. Our mutual hatred approaches legend. Magneto undoubtedly feels that Spider-Man, with the new, virtually godlike power he's reported to possess, could dispose of me for once and for all. Ah, my old enemy, when will you learn that I am not stupid? What? Keys, where do I have to go for these days for a little privacy? The moon. So, he thought he was all alone, and he's getting interrupted right there, which is kind of funny. So, there's this bad guy up here talking, and then the Hulk down here getting interrupted. More coming, and then we have another ad. This part of the comic says, "Alright, Buster, where do you want this rock? On your head or up your da-da-da?" He says, "I'm Sebastian Shaw, the president of Shaw Industries. I've come to outline a business proposition and to offer you a great deal of money." And he says, "Money?" And Sebastian says, "Lots of it." And he said, "Talk to me." And then he throws the rock down. He says, "I do so enjoy dealing with reasonable men. Come along. I'll tell you all about it on the way to da-da-da." Here he is, ready to throw that giant rock at him up here. And then he's telling him, he throws it down, he's like, "Money." And then he's like, "Let's go talk." So this next ad says, "Strap in for full throttle action." Here's the picture that we have. Lots of words on the side. It seems like it was a little wordy of an ad. It says, "Sky Shark for your Nintendo Entertainment System." So Sky Shark is the name of this game. It says official Nintendo seal of quality down here, and then they have like a sweepstakes giveaway up here that says over $80,000 in prizes. It says the original arcade hit is here now. Get ready for the flight of your life with this awesome World War II air battle Sky Shark. Pilot your P-40 fighter plane over a scrolling landscape in dangerous enemy territory. Use machine guns, bombs, pilot skills to knock out attacking tanks, anti-aircraft guns, and an armada of deadly battleships and aircraft carriers. So I'm not going to read the whole thing because that would make us be here forever, but that's the ad right there, which is another reason like I feel like they should keep their ads nice and short because our kids reading this, I doubt it. I'm an adult and I don't want to read it. On to our next page, we finally have Spider-Man show up in this comic. I completely forgot that this was supposed to be about Spider-Man. It's mostly about the Hulk so far. So we have, it says New York several hours earlier as a rainstorm blankets the 5 boroughs, and a blanket of fear coldly cloaks Liberty Island. And then it shows the Statue of Liberty right here. It says, terrorists threatening to blow up the Statue of Liberty. If this was a TV show, I'd switch channels. And Spider-Man is up on top of the torch, and he says, "It's sad that something so callous has almost become cliche, but things like this seem to happen every day, and I've grown to accept them, knowing that I can't save the world, except with that with my new powers, maybe I can." So that's kind of a little ominous. I don't know when this was published, but I feel like I was like, that's kind of weird, like that they would do that before like 9/11. And it says that this was published in January of 1990. So here we have also says it has a sweepstakes with over $80,000 in prizes. See your Tatio, I don't know how you say that, dealer for details. I have no idea what that is, but they ran several promotions. This game says, now you can throw the world's best arcade game right on your Nintendo Entertainment System. Operation Wolf takes you on as a prisoner rescue mission you'll never forget. So they really like their war games, apparently. It says mind-blowing arcade quality graphics put you behind enemy lines where you must destroy the terrorists and save helpless prisoners. That's kind of weird. But yeah, that's that ad right there, talking about terrorists and talking about blowing up the Statue of Liberty in the comic, which is kind of crazy that those are on the same pages. Anyway, now we are to a 2-page comic instead of an ad in the comic. So this is Spider-Man, and he says, after all, didn't I fly out here in a storm that's kept police helicopters grounded? Maybe the question isn't, can I, but should I? I mean, I may have inadvertently killed Goliath. Maybe this power is too much for any mortal to wield. There is an asterisk by Goliath, and it says in Web of Spider-Man number 60. So I don't know what that's about, but I don't know if I have that comic. It says, on the other hand, if I become afraid to use the power, I've let it beat me. He says, oh, what the heck? I'm already here. I've got a clear shot. I think I can. And this is like some army dude. And it says, Rrrk. And Spider-Man looks like he's grabbing that guy. He says, Fitz, what happened? Spider-Man says, I happened to. And then there's all these fighting noises. He's like, kill him. Easier said than done, pal. Especially now that I can control my web lines through willpower alone. Split them into as many lassos as it takes to corral these pseudo-patriotic thugs. Pretty interesting. This seems like a weird attitude for Spider-Man to have, but I think I've said that in other comics too, where like he doesn't seem like the movie Spider-Man. He seems like more, I don't know, like broody and just not like your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man that you are grown up with. Like, why would Spider-Man be trying to kill somebody? That doesn't really seem like on par for Spider-Man. Although, like, with great power comes great responsibility. Like, it doesn't quite line up. So I'll be interested to see how the rest of this comic plays out. On this next page, we have an ad here, and then some more comic power. This Capcom game, it says, get ready for rapid fire action as you are transformed into the Bionic Commando. This bestseller from Capcom is a dynamic adaptation of the original arcade classic. So that's pretty cool. There's a little bit more in there, but I'm not going to read all the ads. It is such small font. I don't know if you can see, but like, it's so hard to read. I don't know why they would have done that. Okay, this next page, it says, which leaves me free to take the rest out the old-fashioned way. And then there's more little fighting noises. It's like, looks like it's not like mold or anything. It just looks honestly like ink. So maybe it was printed like that, or maybe it rubbed off on one of these pages. But we have an ad here, and we have more Spider-Man. The ad says, go head-to-head wireless with Nintendo double player wireless head-to-head system from Acclaim. This is playing games on the Nintendo Entertainment System will never be the same with Acclaim's new double player system. The two set of wireless controllers that really gives you and a friend the power to move when playing your favorite video games, especially games with head-to-head two-player action. I'm sorry. That's this comic right here. Down here is where it says Nintendo. We have the controllers right there. Alright, on this page it has Spider-Man flying, and it says SWAT teams should be able to handle things now. At least no one was killed this time, but I better head back to Manhattan, switch back to Peter Parker's identity. Mary Jane and I are meeting with an old buddy, Flash Thompson, and his latest flame for dinner. Just wish I had time to hitch a ride back in the police boat. I mean, it's nifty, as it may seem to some, but this flying without web blinds is for the birds. Later, it says rain stops. Over here, guys, the view from the restaurant atop the World Trade Center becomes spectacular. So, that's the Trade Centers or towers right there. That's where they're eating dinner, which is weird because we were just talking about like the terrorism that he was talking about, and then they have the World Trade Centers. And the next page, 2 pages, we have no ads, which is nice. We have just comic. So this is dinner with Flash, and it says PMJ. This is Amber, the love of my life. And they go, hello Amber, hi. And she goes, darn. And she's chewing, so it says munch. This steak is cooked too much. And then Mary Jane is saying, so how's the boxing career? And he says, slow but picking up. Might get a money bout in. And the girl interrupts and says, this tastes yucky. Pew. And then she says, hey Garcon. I think she means Garcon. He says, this meat's burnt. And the guy comes over and he says, but madam, it's only slightly more done than the one you sent back as too rare. She says, I don't care, I want another one. And she looks like terrible in this photo. She is right here. Not very pretty. It says, yeesh, what a dump. They'll probably end up gripe when I light up about after chow, just because this is a stupid no smoking section. It says, listen guys, me and Amber are taking in a movie after dinner, want to come along? And they both go, no, I mean, we'd love to, but we have a pre-dawn call for a location shoot tomorrow. And Peter says, and I'm tagging along to Kabitz, gotta sack out early tonight. And they go, oh, maybe another time. He's like, sure. He says, you bet, Flash. And then there's a thinking bubble that says, as long as you leave Miss Congeniality at home. So they are not a fan of his new girlfriend right down there. They're like, yeah, no thanks. On the next page here, we have a set that is what they were talking about, that they really did have to go to something early in the morning. And it's Mary Jane. It says 5 a.m. The cast and crew of the long-running soap opera Secret Hospital assembles alone along the still dark pathways of Battery Park. And then someone says, I hope you won't get too bored, Peter. He goes, are you kidding? Just have your face done and stop worrying about me. I'm fascinated. And then he says, he's thinking to himself, what a lady. And he goes, oh yawn. And he says, I sure lucked out in this marriage. Just wish Flash could do better with and he like can't remember her name. So that's him thinking about it. That's the set of the show that she's on. Mary Jane getting all dolled up to be on. And he says, he's thinking to himself, spider sense tingling, something dropping from a plane over Times Square. Better use my new close-up vision to see what. He says, excuse me, could you tell my wife I have to leave, please? Something unexpected came up. And we see the Hulk slowly falling down closer and closer to her. And so it looks like he's falling. He could be flying. I don't know. Everybody seems to have flying superpowers now. Next 2 pages are all comic. So we have truck in the air. He's having fun throwing stuff around. And then down here we have the truck. It's getting zapped by some web. And it says, Ernie, did I just see? And the other guy says, no. And neither did I. So they're just ignoring what just happened to them, even though they're hanging in the air. And then you see Spider-Man talking to the Hulk, and it says, well, that's a new trick, not that it's gonna keep you from getting pulped. And the best, you mean you came here just to fight me? Why? And the Hulk says, best reason in the world, wet head bucks. So here he is talking to the Hulk, and then we're gonna go down here where it says, Spidey's thinking to himself, money, has someone put a bounty on my head? Is that why people have been attacking me for no reason? And he's thinking to himself, doesn't matter. And then the Hulk's punching. He says, I'm sick of being a living target for any reason. And he just like runs straight ahead on into the Hulk. Right there, he's running into the Hulk. And then that was getting smashed with his hand. Next 2 pages, we have more comics. That's nice. No ads. So it's still Spider-Man running into the Hulk into a wall, and it says, this guy's got a lot stronger than I remembered. Hulk is thinking that to himself. He says, maybe I better stop pulling he's about to say punches when Spider-Man's like looking down and he's like kind of weirded out, and the Hulk says, hand changing color, banner starting to take over. He says, but it's too soon for blast. So busy doing my job, I forgot the sun's coming up 3 hours earlier here. So he's turning from like a green color into like this human, kind of like peachy flesh tone. Apparently he turns back into Bruce Banner when the sun comes up. So I didn't know that was something that happened. The next page, he's thinking to himself, gotta get away before I completely change. Good thing about New York, there's always an ambulance around when you need one. And he says, Roosevelt Island, the ruins. He said, tomorrow night, web slinger. And then, so he just smashed into an ambulance so that he could get away. And then we have Spider-Man talking to the guys in the ambulance. He said, you guys okay? And they say, just shaken up. And then the other one says, but the stab victim in the back needs emergency room fast. And Peter Parker, Spider-Man says, don't worry. He says, he'll get one. And then they both say, Spider-Man can fly. Did I sleep through something? So it's nice to know that I'm not the only one confused about like Spider-Man's new powers. So it must have recently happened. Alright, this next page we have an ad and we have more comics right here. So this one's a little bit longer. It says, but as the rising sun peeks into a nearby alleyway, Bruce Banner fervently wishes he was asleep, for the nightmares would be far more desirable than this. Hulk, curse your hide. What the devil have you gotten me into this time? So Bruce Banner is kind of naked and cold and trying to figure out what happened to him the night before. And this says the day passes at Empire State University, and Peter is thinking to himself, nuts, can't seem to concentrate on this lecture, and he's just like doodling on a page. So right here he's got Spider-Man, it says good guy, and then he's got the Hulk in a noose, and it's just like boo, yuck, hiss. And he's thinking to himself, he's like, mind keeps wandering, sort of hard to worry about failing a physics course when you don't know if you'll survive long enough to take the final exam. And it says, on Midtown Street corner, that's right, upset stomach, don't know when I'll be back to work. So Bruce Banner's calling to work. He says, gotta go. And he's thinking to himself, cop looking at me, saw me panhandle that quarter, can't get nabbed for vagrancy now. And so he's like pretending to yawn. He's like, guess that's enough sun, better get back to the office. So he's trying to pretend like he just took his shirt off to like get some sunlight. So he took his shirt off to pretend like he was just getting some sunlight like on his break. And so the cop's standing there with his hands on his hips, and he says, fruitcake. He says, but a creative fruitcake. So he saw right through him. next we're at Shaw Industries, and it's a little thingy bubble says, it seems my newest employee was unsuccessful last night, and it's a newspaper with the Hulk on it. It says, but I can't waste too much time on this Spider-Man affair. I have other more vital concerns to consider, and I'll give the Hulk one more chance. So here's where we have Bruce Banner trying to get away from the cop without getting arrested, and then we have the newspaper article and him just like being mad that the Hulk didn't get rid of Spider-Man. On this next page we have an ad, and this is for Radical Action. It says Mega Man 2 and Strider, I think is what this says. It's for Capcom games. Those are those two games right there. A couple more pages. Alright, we have a comic page, and then we also have another ad here. So the comic page says, tonight, and it says Hulk chose his battleground well. Roosevelt Island sits smack dab in the middle of the East River between Manhattan and Queens. It says, and the ruined buildings on the south end have been deserted for years. I doubt we'll have any problem with uninvited guests. And he's actually like on a web this time, like slinging around, so he's not flying, straight up flying like he was before. And then there's some kids, and they say, your mom, Dan, does good if she knew we'd swipe these butts from her purse, so they're out there smoking. One of them's wearing a Spider-Man shirt, and he says, what do you think? Why do you think we came here to, Stan? He says, look, and they see Spider-Man. Spider-Man's thinking, spider sense tingling. Hulk isn't wasting any, and says, time, and something flies right past him. It's just a giant boulder. There's those two kids smoking, and they're like way up here. They see Spider-Man, and then something's getting thrown at Spider-Man. So this ad, we have introducing the Web of Gold game. It says, all you need for an adventure on your own. It's very hard to read. I can't even tell you what some of this says down here. It's like super blurry. So not quite sure what that is, or if that's exactly how it was printed. But not very good use of your ad money. Alright, the next two pages here, we just have Fallout comic, and it's a brawl between the Hulk and Spider-Man. The Hulk, for some reason, looks like bigger this time. It says, glad you showed up, Spider-Man. Grinding cowards into the dirt leaves a bad taste in my mouth. And he goes, and so that's it. And here I was about to suggest a mint. He says, actually, the reason I showed up, so this is now a thinking bubble, he says, was because I figured the Hulk would come looking for me if I didn't. And at least here, there won't be any innocent casualties. Which is, now he's back to like sounding and acting like the Spider-Man I feel like that we know. Says, except maybe me. And then the Hulk says, been working out, webhead. I nearly felt that. So they're punching each other, and Spider-Man's not doing much according to the Hulk. So that's this page right here, them just fighting. And he's like, yep, didn't feel that. The next page here says, Hulk's stubborn. He'll keep at this until one of us is in pieces. If only I had a way to slow him down. And he says, where'd that light come from? It says, Flash, another new power. Leave him alone, you big jerk. This is our turf, and no one's gonna trash Spidey here without a fight. So those kids came running up to save Spider-Man. It says, Keys, Steve, you're crazy. He says, oh no, where'd they come from? So, not cool for Spidey. He's got some little kids here that he's gotta try to protect now. Just the whole reason that he came was because nobody was gonna be there. Alright, this next page, we've got some ads, and we have more comic. This is for a comic book convention in December. It says this was in January 6th and 7th of 1990. It says the biggest show of the year. Special guest was Todd McFarlane, which I think was the artist of this comic. So that's kind of cool. And there's also, up at the top here, there's a Stan soapbox where Stan Lee wrote like a little blurb. And I'm just going to read a little bit of it. It says the bullpen bulletins. It says it's never easy to say goodbye to an old friend. I'm referring to, of course, the amiable Archie Goodwin, who was given up his editing duties as Marvel's epic line to take up residence with our cavorting competitors. So somebody left to DC, which is kind of funny. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but this is just kind of cool that it was like a little blurb by Stan Lee in this comic. says, nosy rugrats, better scare him off. And now Spider-Man's thinking he's raising the girder, turning towards those kids. It says, walk. He says, no. So he was getting ready to, like, scare him off, but Spider-Man thought he was going to hurt him. And you can see the Hulk getting, like, pushed way up. He says, wow, he's still going, but he has time to come down. He's, like, almost up to the moon now. And it says sometime. So Spidey got a ton of strength and was able to get him, like, all the way up there, which is kind of crazy. Alright, next page we have more of those, like, comic ordering ads, and then we have more of the comic. So these are just, like, all the different kind of comic books you can order, and tells you all the prices. Most of the prices range anywhere from, like, $1.25 to, like, $4.95 seems to be, like, the most expensive. Actually, there's t-shirts on here too that are like $20, so crazy cool prices. If we had those today, that'd be nice. Alright, almost here at the end. We've got the Hulk. It says, wanna bet orbit. Blasted web slinger knocked me into orbit. Cold doesn't bother me and I can't hold my breath a long time, but this is hot. But up this high, dawn's gonna hit me a lot sooner. And if I turn into Banner up here, the only question is, which I'll do first, freeze, suffocate, or explode. From what I've learned about odds in Vegas, my money's on Kerpop. So he's gonna, like, straight up die if he stays up in space. It says, Mr. Spider-Man, what if he never comes down? Spider-Man is, like, kind of hugging the kids, and he says, I was thinking about that myself, and about Goliath. I don't care if there are limits to this new power I've got, but maybe it's time to find out. So he's thinking this to himself, and he's kind of, like, flying like Superman. So, and the kids are talking to each other. Hey, if he's gonna pull stunts like that, he'd better start wearing a cape. Okay, so I'm glad that they're even seeing their own parallels, that this is straight up Superman. Got 2 more pages of comic here. Oh, Hulk up in the sky, and he's thinking to himself, like the Beatles said, here comes the sun. Never thought it would end this way. So he really thinks he's gonna die up in space, killed by something I can't even punch. He says, huh, and something grabs him from his head and his throat, and it's Spider-Man, and he's bringing him all the way back down. So, like, Spider-Man can fly into space now. That's crazy. And it says, soon, if you're looking for thanks, forget it. I would have saved myself somehow. He says, still, it was a nice gesture, so I'm going to return the favor. I won't kill you this time. And Spidey's thinking to himself, kill me after what I just did. I'm not even sure I can die. So he, all of a sudden, like, where are these powers coming from? He's straight up Superman. The next page, it says, a thought almost as exhilarating as the frightening, and one Peter Parker shares with his wife the next day. He says, first I may have killed Goliath, then I almost killed the Hulk. And he says, I hate this new power. I just wish it would go away. It says, while at Shaw Industries, Mr. Banner is confused. That should keep him docile for this trip back to Nevada. He says, but Banner is the least of my worries. The new powers Spider-Man possesses may be more of a threat than Magneto's petty. It poses a danger to my plans as well. It may be wise to look into the phenomenon further, sir. With diligence and patience, perhaps I can find a way to make those powers go away, says the next issue is Sentinels.